What if I told you? The very thoughts you trust the most are quietly betraying you. Deep inside, your mind is playing tricks, turning your strengths into weaknesses, your hopes into doubts. Every decision, every feeling, every dream, you're not fully in control. Today we'll uncover the hidden war within your own consciousness, and why the battle you fight inside is far more dangerous than the world outside. Have you ever stopped to really listen to that voice inside your head? Not casually, not as a passing thought, but deeply, as if you were trying to understand a stranger in the room with you. Most people live their entire lives believing that the voice in their head, the running commentary, the opinions, the judgments, is the truest reflection of themselves. But what if I told you it isn't? What if the very voice you trust most, the one that seems so familiar, is in fact a collection of whispers, echoes, and fragments that do not fully belong to you? This voice, this constant chatter, is an ancient survival mechanism. Its purpose, when we first inherited it in our minds, was to protect us, to warn us of danger, to alert us to threats, to prepare us to survive. And yet, in the modern world, this mechanism is often misfiring. It interprets every subtle challenge as a catastrophe, every mistake as proof of inadequacy, and every delay as a personal failing. It does not see reality. It interprets it through a lens of fear and bias, one that has been shaped by every experience, every trauma, every childhood lesson you may not even remember consciously. Think of this voice as a mirror, but not a clear, polished mirror. Instead, it is a mirror fractured into 1,000 tiny shards. Each shard reflects a different part of reality, but none of them reveal the complete picture. One shard tells you you're not good enough. Another says, you'll fail if you try. And yet another whispers, you're not worthy of love. Taken together, they form a distorted narrative, a version of yourself that is incomplete, sometimes cruel and almost never true. And here's the most unsettling part. Most people have no idea this is happening. They trust this voice blindly as though it were a friend. They follow it, obey it, and allow it to shape their decisions, their relationships, and even their dreams. They think, this is me thinking. This is who I am. But in reality, this voice is only a part of you, a small, often misinformed part. And if left unchecked, it can direct the course of your life in ways you will later regret. To understand this voice, we must ask a critical question. Where does it come from? Its origins are hidden deep in the unconscious. Every fear, every prejudice, every insecurity you carry feeds it. Childhood experiences imprint on it. Societal expectations carve its shape. Past failures whisper their warnings. And even the media, the books we read, and the constant comparison to others build its architecture. This is why your mind often seems to work against you. It has been trained not to serve your highest purpose, but to survive, to protect, and sometimes to punish. But awareness is the first key. The moment you recognize that this voice is not the entirety of who you are, you gain the power to question it. You begin to see the difference between thought and truth. You begin to differentiate between fear-driven suggestions and wisdom-driven guidance. And with this clarity, you create a space between the stimulus and your response. Oh, space where choice exists, where freedom is possible. Now, you might be wondering, how can we trust anything if even our own minds mislead us? The answer is not to silence the voice completely. That is impossible, but to engage with it intelligently. Observe it without judgment. Listen to it critically. Ask it, why are you saying this? What are you trying to protect me from? And then choose consciously whether to follow its direction or to chart your own path. This process is not easy. It requires discipline, reflection, and courage. But the reward is profound. Because once you realize that the voice in your head isn't you, everything changes. Your relationship with yourself transforms. You are no longer a passive passenger in your own mind. You become the driver. You begin to notice patterns, how fear masquerades as logic, how doubt disguises itself as truth, how shame hides behind self-criticism. And in noticing these patterns, you dismantle them. You reclaim the energy that was previously spent on internal battles. You reclaim your focus, your creativity, and your capacity to act boldly. And here's the paradox. The voice in your head, when understood, becomes not an enemy but a teacher. It reveals where your insecurities lie, where your wounds are unhealed, and where your potential has been suppressed. By engaging with it consciously, you can transform the mind from a battlefield into a laboratory of growth, a place where awareness, self-reflection, and conscious decision-making converge. So today I want you to remember this. The next time you hear that voice criticizing, doubting, or warning you, pause, step back, observe. Realize that this is not the entirety of who you are. You are not your fears. You are not your doubts. You are the awareness that witnesses these thoughts. And that awareness holds the power to shape a new reality, because the voice in your head isn't you, but it can become your greatest ally. If only you learn to recognize it, understand it, and guide it with conscious intention. Have you ever noticed that your mind seems to strike hardest when you are already vulnerable? When you are tired, anxious, or uncertain, it whispers things you would never allow yourself to hear at your strongest moments. Why does this happen? Why does your own consciousness sometimes feel like an enemy rather than an ally? The answer lies in the subtle architecture of the mind, how it reacts, defends, and projects. Your mind at its core is designed to preserve you. It's an intricate system built over millennia to detect threats, predict danger, and keep you alive. But in the modern world, the threats are no longer lions or falling rocks. They are social pressures, internal doubts, and imagined failures. The same mechanisms that once protected you now misfire, turning inward, attacking precisely when you feel most fragile. Think about this. When you are weak, physically, emotionally, or mentally, your mind perceives danger not only from external sources but also from within. It begins to amplify every insecurity, magnify every fear, and replay every past mistake with cruel precision. The mind is relentless in this mode because it is trying to prevent future pain, but its method is flawed. Instead of guiding you to constructive action, it traps you in loops of self-doubt and rumination. This attack is not random. It follows patterns rooted deeply in your unconscious. Every unresolved conflict, every unprocessed emotion, every lingering regret feeds this internal assault. The moment you are vulnerable, the mind pulls out its arsenal. Anxiety disguised as logic, shame masked as insight, guilt cloaked as responsibility. You start to believe that you are failing, unworthy, or incapable, not because it is true, but because the mind is reacting to old wounds, old fears, and old patterns that you have never fully examined. And here's what most people fail to understand. These attacks are not meant to destroy you. They are the mind's distorted attempt to protect you. Imagine a parent who is overprotective, always warning of danger, always holding back. The intention is caring, yet the result is limitation, fear, and self-doubt. Your mind behaves similarly. It attacks not out of malice, but out of misguided duty. It tries to prevent you from risking too much, from facing what it believes is dangerous, from stepping beyond the familiar. Yet the irony is unmistakable. By attempting to protect you, it often keeps you trapped. It convinces you that stepping forward is unsafe, that taking risks is foolish, that your instincts are flawed. In doing so, it hinders your growth, your courage, and your potential. Every time you succumb to these attacks, you reinforce the very limitations your mind is trying to protect you from. So how do you navigate this? Awareness is again the first step. Recognize that the intensity of these attacks correlates with your vulnerability. Notice when the inner critic grows louder, when doubts feel sharper, when fear feels insurmountable. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs that your mind is reacting according to patterns that have been embedded over a lifetime. Observing without judgment is the key. Next, confront these patterns consciously. Ask, what is the source of this attack? Is it fear of failure? Fear of rejection? A memory from childhood? By identifying the root, you diminish its power. You stop responding unconsciously and start responding intentionally. You turn an internal assailant into a signal, a guidepost that shows you exactly where your healing and growth are needed. Another critical insight is that vulnerability itself is not a weakness, it is a gateway. The mind attacks when you are weak because that is when you are closest to transformation. Weakness exposes the fissures in your psyche, the cracks where light can enter. By facing these attacks, by sitting with your discomfort instead of fleeing from it, you begin to integrate the wounded, hidden parts of yourself. You begin to transform the very fears that once constrained you into strengths that propel you forward. And remember, you are not alone in this. Every person, no matter how successful or confident they appear, experiences these internal attacks. The difference is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of awareness. The difference is in learning to step outside the chaos, to watch the attack unfold without being consumed, and to respond with intention rather than instinct. Finally, the mind's attacks teach a profound lesson. True strength is not the absence of fear or doubt, but the capacity to act despite them. When you recognize the patterns, confront the roots, and respond with awareness, you reclaim control. You no longer allow your mind to dictate your worth, your choices, or your destiny. You become both the observer and the author of your inner narrative. So next time your mind strikes when you are at your weakest, pause and reflect. Understand the attack, trace its origins, and respond consciously. What feels like betrayal is often guidance in disguise. What feels like chaos is often an opportunity to reclaim your power. Your mind does not attack randomly. It reveals precisely where growth, courage, and transformation are most necessary. And here is the truth. Those who master this inner dynamic do not just survive, they thrive. They turn vulnerability into wisdom, attacks into insights, and weakness into strength. By learning why your mind attacks when you are weak, you gain the tools to transform the battlefield within into a realm of conscious power and self-mastery. Deep within every human mind lies a shadow. It is not visible in the mirror, not audible in casual conversation, and rarely acknowledged in the light of day. Yet this shadow exists, quietly influencing your decisions, shaping your reactions, and often undermining your happiness without you even realizing it. This hidden part of you, your shadow self, is not inherently evil, but it is powerful, unexamined, and relentless. If ignored, it can subtly sabotage your relationships, your career, and even your sense of self-worth. The shadow is formed from everything you have rejected about yourself. Every thought, feeling, or impulse that you have deemed unacceptable or wrong gets buried deep within your unconscious. Childhood experiences, societal pressures, moments of shame, and unmet needs all contribute to the architecture of this hidden self. Over time, these repressed parts accumulate, growing in influence and power. And here's the insidious truth. The more you refuse to confront them, the more they manifest in ways you do not recognize. Consider how this shadow operates. Have you ever found yourself sabotaging a promising opportunity? Or reacting disproportionately to a minor criticism? Or repeating patterns in relationships that leave you frustrated, confused, or hurt? These are not accidents. They are the shadow making its presence known. It thrives on avoidance and denial, exploiting your blind spots to steer your behavior without your conscious awareness. The shadow is not confined to negative traits alone. It includes suppressed creativity, hidden desires, and potential you have been too fearful to express. Its influence is both destructive and instructive. By ignoring it, you remain trapped in cycles of frustration. By facing it, you unlock deeper understanding and untapped potential. Recognizing the shadow is therefore not an exercise in self-criticism. It is an invitation to profound growth. How do you begin this confrontation? Start with observation. Notice recurring patterns of failure, conflict, or anxiety in your life. Ask yourself, what part of me am I avoiding? Often the triggers that elicit strong emotional responses, anger, jealousy, shame, or fear, point directly to shadow material. These reactions are not arbitrary. They are signals, markers pointing to unacknowledged aspects of yourself that demand attention. Integration is the next step. Integration does not mean condoning harmful behavior or surrendering to destructive impulses. It means acknowledging these hidden parts of yourself without judgment, understanding their origins, and finding conscious ways to redirect their energy. For example, unrecognized anger can be transformed into assertiveness. Suppressed creativity can be channeled into art, writing, or innovation. Fear can become caution and strategic insight. Each hidden, rejected part of you, when integrated, becomes a source of power rather than a source of self-sabotage.